Hello, hello, hello. Wow. Okay, here I am. This is my first time using this platform. And what I mean by that platform, I'm live right now on my Facebook page. So I'm going to check to make sure everything looks well. And I'm live on YouTube. Yeah! Okay. Let me just make sure it's recording and everything is okay. I'm so nervous right now. You guys have no idea. All right. I'm getting it together. I think they said don't do this part. But here I am. All right. So I'm waiting to see if anybody's going to come. They said don't do that part either. So I'm just going to get started with my story. Kind of wish I could see if it's here, but give me 1 second, you all. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, ooh. Okay. All right. There. Okay. It's on. It's recording. I see it. All right. I'm excited. Okay. All right. I'm kind of excited, but at the same time, I'm not. And the reason that I'm saying that is because I'm doing something today very transparently. I was asked by my daughter, let me get into it because I don't want to be here too long either. I was asked by my daughter, she said, Mom, your videos are really good and we're learning a lot. But her challenge to me was, why don't you tell more of your story? Because it had been known, y'all. It's a running joke in my family. Like my dad once said, he's like, Queen, you know what? Your story is like a soap opera. Your life, rather, is like a soap opera. We just sit back, watch it, and wait for the next episode. And he said that jokingly, but at the time, seriously, my story has been like a soap opera. And the funny part is I've been through a lot, like as all of us. And I have been sharing with you all to be transparent and tell your stories. That your authority is in your story. If you want to be a coach, guess what? Your healing is in your story. There's a lot having to do with your story, but people can't get the benefits of your story if you're not willing to share it. So I'm understanding in this moment, probably more than I ever had, the difficulty in doing what I've been asking to do. Because until this moment, I've shared pieces, bits and pieces. And I'm only going to share another piece here because I don't want to keep you here too long. So I'm going to share bits and pieces. But in this recording, my goal is to simply share with you what I'm 57, what my 50-year-old self would say to my 30-year-old self. And I cheated because I put it on my coaching page. I don't know if I'm ever going to put this on my personal page, but it's on my YouTube channel. And I'm sure, like anything, and I always tell you all, the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more used you get to it, blah, blah, blah. So, in complete transparency, I'm breathing deep. I'm going to do this. So, I'm going to tell you an experience that happened for me in my 30-year-old something self. And this was the story. The story was that I was divorced with 2 children. And I had been divorced for about 6 years or so. I was not only divorced, but I was divorced and celibate. So celibate means you're not having sex on purpose. I wouldn't have sex on purpose. So I got to the point, because of my faith and my religion, I wasn't having sex. That part of the issue, but what was the issue? I remember the day, I remember the moment, I remember the time where I decided I'm tired of waiting. Yeah, I did that. I decided I'm tired. And when I decided I was tired, there were men that were coming and they were asking me to marry them and all of this kind of stuff. And I was like, no, 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 no to all y'all. Then it got to a point where I decided I was tired of waiting. I was tired of being celibate. So in order to stay with my religious background and my beliefs, my spiritual beliefs, I needed to be married. So I said to myself, I said, so the next one come along and ask you to marry him, we gonna do it. Yeah, I did that. I'm gonna tell you at the end what I would tell my 30-year self, which is not to do that. So I did it. Of course, one came along. He asked me, and of course, it got to the point about 6 months in a relationship. Okay, it's that time. Well, look, I don't do that because if you're gonna do that, I don't I don't sleep with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I marry every Tom, Dick, and Harry. That's not a good idea, y'all. Don't do that part. So one came along and it got to that point, and he said, okay, well, let's get married. And I said, okay, then. So we did it. We got married. And it started off, I was really excited. I was in my background was real estate. I was in real estate at the time. So I found us a house. Mm-hmm. And it was a wonderful house. And we fully furnished it and whatever. And thank God he put it in his name. Just thank God for that part. God do, look out for babies and fools sometimes, because I was a stark ring fool in that moment. So bought the house. Arranged everything. Kids had their rooms and everything. And I should have known there was a problem, because at the time before I married him, I had my own business. So I had my own office and I was living with my mom, my kids and I. And I remember telling my mom, she asked me what I was taking, certain things. I said, don't leave everything in here. I don't want to take. Now, this is the problem. When you go into a marriage and this is what you say. I don't want to take anything out of here that is too big for me to carry back. That's a problem. That's a problem. So I went into it kind of knowing it. I don't know. There wasn't problems in the relationship at that time. And here's the deepest part, because I got to be in full transparency. I'm a believer. So I started taking him to church with me. So guess what? He became a believer. Came down to the altar. There was tears and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, woo, 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 it gonna be good. Yes. So I will say, to my credit, that happened before we got married. Not that it helped. So here we are. And we got married. It probably wasn't even a month into it. No, it wasn't a month into it, because it only lasted like a month. Mm-hmm. The first Sunday I went and I asked, I said, so I'm getting the kids together and ready. So are we going to church? He looked at me and said, I don't have to go to church. I don't have to go to church just because you want me to. But you cried. You came down to the altar, boy. You cried. So that was the crux of the marriage. So further on into it, trying to get through this. I'm going to make it short. But I'm accomplishing my goal, because I didn't want to say none of this. But I'm saying all of it, because I'll never ask you to do anything I'm not willing to do. I'm challenging myself. This is hard. So I remember into it at some point, it just got bad. It just wasn't good. It just wasn't good. From that moment on, stuff happened and it wasn't good. And another time I'll tell you the details. But the main thing I want to say now is I knew when it really, really wasn't good. And that was when about 3 o'clock in the morning, because sometime wouldn't come home. That ain't good either. So I remember about 3 o'clock in the morning, one morning, the Lord told me to call his ex, because he had a daughter. And I knew the number, so I called. She said, hello. I said, hi. Told her who I was. Do you happen to know where blank is? Which is my husband. But do you happen to know where blank is? That wasn't a problem. The problem was her answer. She said 2 words that I'll never forget. She said, can y'all guess what that was? Ain't nobody on here looking at me, but it will be. I'm kind of comforted that ain't nobody on here. I'm live streaming, ain't nobody here. Anyway, she said 2 words. She said, hold on, in her sleepy voice. Hold on. He gets on the phone. He's sleepy too. So he proceeded to tell me that his daughter wasn't feeling well and that's why he's there. Now, there wasn't no phone call to me. It wasn't no telling. You've done this a few times, I've noticed. You just not come on. That's a problem. Some women can live with that. This one can't. Yeah. Even I was off. Even in my off time, I still couldn't live with that. So I'm sitting there, you guys, and I'm feeling like I'm stuck. I'm stuck right now. I'm so stuck that I've made a decision. I'm into this. And oh my God, I've said vows. You know, we had a small wedding at the house, but people came. I'm stuck. This is the marriage number 2, and I'm just stuck. So I remember one day I was sitting out at the pool, and of course I had to hide all this from my children. And I'm sitting at the pool, and I'm sitting on the end of the diving board, dangling my feet. And I wasn't having real suicidal thoughts, but kind of sort of like, I just wish I could go away. I wish I could just shrink into the background and wish none of this happened. So I'm sitting down, I'm looking in the water, and my feet are dangling. And I said, God, what are we going to do now? And I meant that from the bottom of my heart, because I was only going to do what he told me to do in that moment. And again, I feel like I'm stuck. He said, the answer he gave me shocked even me. I'll tell you what he said. He said, Queen, you got yourself into this mess. Now you get yourself out. I did not tell you to marry that man. That's what he said. Yeah, I know that just messed up some religious minds. Blew your mind. Bam, boom, bam, gone. Pick your mind up. Go get your mind. I'm just telling you my story. And he may never tell you that. And I'm never going to advocate or condone divorce. I'm just not doing it. Because I believe in marriage. I am so happily married right now. But that's what he said. That's my story. You got yourself into this mess. Now you get yourself out. I didn't tell you to marry that man. Then he went on to say, put it this way. In my shock, like, I know I hear your voice. I know what you sound like. And that was you. And then he went on to explain. Bless him. He's so awesome. He said, put it this way, Queen. He is a duck and you are an eagle. You will never be a duck and he will never be an eagle. And if you choose to stay in this marriage, you will never soar to the heights I've called you to. Never. I felt 2 things in that moment. For one thing, I was like shocked because I didn't even think God talked about divorce like that. The other thing was a little bit of elation, like, dang, trepidation and elation at the same time, because now I got to go through the process of correcting my mistake, getting out of it and trying to pick up the pieces and renew my life. Okay. So here I am. I'm going out and I got up from that moment and I realized I knew instantly what I needed to do. And it didn't take me long to do it. Like I said, this whole process was like, it was a very short time. So short that I tried to get annulled and they said that you had sex with him, so you can't get annulled. It has to be a full-blown divorce. So anyway, I left. We ended up getting a divorce. I picked up the pieces of my life and had to live with just the wound and the scar of that. Another, in my mind, failure. I'm saying I'm being transparent with you because the question again is, what would your 50-year-old self tell your 30-year-old self? And that's around the age I was when that happened. So hindsight, and looking back, and hopefully maybe this will help you too. Would you say, Queen? This is what I would say. You can't twist God's arm. He doesn't bless your mess. If you get yourself into something, I'm not going to tell you he's going to say the same thing to you. I'm not going to tell you because sometimes it's not that it's not the wrong person. Sometimes it's the wrong timing. And sometimes that can be worked through. I don't know. I'm just telling you my story. My story is it was the wrong person. My story is I got married and I pushed God's hand. My story is I said, I'm tired of being single. I'm going to get married. I'm tired of not having sex. I'm going to get married. My story is I made all those decisions by myself. God wasn't in it. That's my story. So my story is, Queen, you got yourself into this mess. Now you get yourself out. I didn't tell you to marry him. So I still had to go through the ramifications and all of that of another failed attempt and the healing that needs to happen and all of that. So I guess what I would say to my 30-year-old self is to wait on God. Don't make the kind of mistakes on purpose that you know is a mistake. You know it's not a good idea. I told you, I sat there and I remember the day I told myself, look, next one come along, I'm doing it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Wait on God. Wait on God's timing. And guess what? If you're in something, don't try to hear his voice like I heard him and think, oh, if he said that to her, so of course he's saying to me, don't do that either, because you can end up jumping out of the pot into somebody's fire. Because this is my story. But I'm hoping to keep someone from the possibility of making a mistake, jumping too soon, doing something that you're not totally comfortable in your spirit doing it, because your intuition, your spirit is never going to lie to you. I told you, I went into it wrong. I just went in, Mom, leave my stuff here because I don't know if I'm coming back. That's just wrong. The mere fact that I said that meant that I shouldn't have did it. That's what it means. So if there's any trepidation for you in a decision that you're making, just wait. That scenario and story has helped me in so many other times in my life. That story has helped me to break past, to alleviate decisions that would have been bad if I hadn't experienced that. So it did all work out for my good. But the truth is, I found myself saying yes to a man when God was saying no. Don't do that. I'm actually thankful that it didn't end up worse than it did. I'm actually thankful that, I was wounded, I was hurt, but I'm grateful and I'm thankful to God that it wasn't even worse. It could have even ended worse than it was. So I'm breathing deep. I'm allowing the transparency of that story, even as I retell it, to help propel me in the areas of my life where I'm going to have to go forward. And hopefully this helps you in some areas of your life where you may be challenged too. Just wait. He makes all things beautiful in his time, not yours. And you'll be surprised at the very thing you think you can't do, you really can. Just wait. Sometimes it's hormones. Sometimes you just need to go to bed and wake up. Sometimes you just need to refocus. Whole lot of things I can think of that I could have done in that moment. But this is my story. So I hope that helps somebody. I did it. I try not to make it too long. I could talk. I could go longer and longer, but I'm not, because I just want to leave you with that. Let God have his way. Don't push his hand. You won't be happy. It won't be good for you. And not just for you, but it affects anything you do affects the lives of others. I affected the lives of my children. They remember that. They said they remember that when we were packing up and leaving. And how happy they were. I said, y'all remember that? Yeah, Mom, we remember, we had our own room and all that. And you was trying to make it, they were young, but they remember. And they remember being happy about leaving. So don't put your kids through that. Don't put you through that. You're worth so much more than making obvious mistakes, because that was an obvious mistake on my part that hopefully you won't make, because you're hearing my story. All right. I hope that helps somebody. I love you. God bless. How do I stop this?